So, you want to join the Roman legions? Fantastic choice. You're trading a quiet life of subsistence farming for a 25-year contract, world-class dental, meaning you'll have at least 3 teeth left by age 40. And the chance to see the world, mostly while people are screaming and trying to poke holes in you. Forget the polished marble statues and the guys in pristine white togas eating grapes. Real Rome smelled like wet leather, stale vinegar, and the collective body odor of 5,000 dudes who haven't seen a shower since the reign of Nero. It was the greatest war machine in history, and today, we're looking at why being a cog in that machine was both the most prestigious and most miserable job in the ancient world. The recruitment. Congrats, you're now property. First things first, you don't just join the army, you get absorbed by it. To get in, you had to be a Roman citizen, at least 5 feet 8 inches, which was tall for the time. Rome was basically a land of spicy short kings, and physically fit. If you passed the medical exam, you were branded. Yes, branded, like a cow. A little mark on your arm or hand to ensure that if you deserted, any tavern owner in Gaul would know exactly who to call. You then took the sacramentum, a sacred oath of loyalty to the emperor. From that moment on, you weren't a person, you were a tool of the state. If the emperor told you to march into a forest in Germany and fight a guy twice your size wearing a bear's head as a hat, you said, "Is there a dental plan for that?" Spoiler, there wasn't. At least you've got a steady paycheck, right? Well, wait until you see the hidden fees that make a modern cell phone contract look like a charity donation. The paycheck. I work for salt and sadness. The base pay for a legionary was about 900 sesterces a year. Sounds decent. Think again. The Roman army was the king of the company store model. They deducted money for your food, your clothing, your equipment, and even your burial club. Because if you died in a ditch in Dacia, the army wanted to make sure they weren't out of pocket for the funeral. By the time the bean counters were done, you were basically working for some bread, sour wine, and the honor of not being executed. In fact, the word salary comes from sal, salt, because sometimes you were paid in seasoning. Imagine risking your life for a handful of McCormick's sea salt. The gear, the original CrossFit. A Roman soldier was essentially a human forklift. You weren't just carrying a sword and a shield, you were carrying your entire life. This included a pilum, javelin, a gladius, short sword, a scutum, massive shield, plus 2 weeks' worth of grain, a saw, a basket, a spade, and a cooking pot. This weighed about 60 to 80 pounds. They didn't call the soldiers Marius's mules because they were stubborn. They called them that because they were pack animals. You'd march 20 miles a day in hobnailed boots, caligae, that sounded like a freight train coming down a cobblestone street. Think the hike was the hard part? Wait until you see what happens when the sun goes down and you have to build a 5-star fortress from scratch before you can even think about dinner. The camp, the pop-up fortress. The Roman army didn't do camping, they did instant urban development. Every single night after marching 20 miles, the legion would stop and build a fortified mini-city. They dug trenches, built walls, and set up a grid system so precise that a soldier could be blindfolded, dropped in a camp in Britain, and still find the latrine in a camp in Syria. The ultimate flex. It told the enemy, "We aren't just visiting, we brought the HOA with us." But if you were the guy swinging the shovel after a day of dodging Germanic arrows, it was pure, unadulterated manual labor. The food, pancakes of despair. You didn't get a mess hall. You were divided into a contubernium, a group of 8 guys who shared a tent and a grindstone. You were given raw grain, which you had to grind yourself to make poles, porridge, or hardtack bread. Meat was rare. The Roman legionary was essentially a high-performance vegetarian fueled by gluten and spite. You drank posca, which was essentially vinegar mixed with water. It killed the bacteria and kept you standing, but it certainly didn't make for a happy hour vibe. But don't let the boring diet fool you. When the trumpet sounded, these carb-loaded machines transformed into the most terrifyingly organized wall of death the world had ever seen. Would you like me to continue with part 2, Facts 6 to 10, covering the terrifying discipline, the battle tactics, and the retirement plan. So, you've survived the 20-mile hike, built a miniature city with a spade, and eaten a bowl of grain that tasted like a dusty sandal. You're probably thinking, surely it's time for a nap. Wrong. Welcome to the Roman military's version of HR, where constructive feedback usually involves a vine stick, and team building means literally holding a wall together while people throw heavy objects at your head. Let's get back into the grind. The discipline, vines, rods, and really bad luck. The Roman army didn't believe in timeouts. They believed in the centurion, a grizzled veteran who carried a vites, a tough vine stick. If your shield wasn't polished or your sandals were loose, the vites met your back. It was the ancient version of a drill sergeant, but with more splinters and significantly less paperwork. And then there was the big one, decimation. If a unit showed cowardice or mutinied, the Romans didn't just fire the manager. They drew straws. Every 10th man was stepped forward and, get this, beaten to death by the other 9 guys in his squad. It's the ultimate one-for-all policy, except the all are the ones holding the clubs. It ensured that you were infinitely more terrified of your own commander than the screaming barbarian charging at you with a broadsword. Think that's brutal? Wait until the trumpets blow and you realize that teamwork in Rome wasn't a corporate buzzword. It was the only thing keeping your guts inside your body. The battle tactic, the turtle of doom. When the Romans fought, they didn't do the Braveheart sprint across an open field. That's how you get killed. Instead, they used the testudo, or tortoise, formation. Imagine a giant, angry Lego brick made of wood, leather, and iron. Soldiers locked their massive scuda, shields, together, front, sides, and overhead. It was basically a portable bunker. You could bounce boulders off the top of a testudo, and the guys inside would just keep marching, probably complaining about the vinegar quality. It was slow, it was claustrophobic, and it was the most effective way to ruin an enemy's afternoon before they even got within stabbing distance. The weaponry. The pointy end goes where? The Roman soldier didn't use a long, fancy sword. They used the gladius hispaniensis. It was short, punchy, and designed for one thing, the stab and twist. In the tight confines of a shield wall, you didn't have room to swing a massive blade. You just waited for an opening and gave the guy in front of you a very permanent stomachache. Before the stabbing, though, came the pilum. This was a genius piece of engineering. A heavy javelin with a soft iron neck. When you threw it at an enemy's shield, the tip would bend upon impact. Now the enemy has a 6-foot spear stuck in their shield that they can't pull out and can't throw back. They have to drop their shield, leaving them wide open for, you guessed it, the stab and twist. But life wasn't all stabbing and shield walls. What happened when the war was over and you were stuck in a damp fort in the middle of nowhere? Welcome to the glamorous world of Roman leisure. The latrines, the original social media. If you wanted the latest gossip on the emperor or the best place to buy black market wine, you went to the latrine. Roman toilets were long stone benches with holes cut in them, sat side by side with 0 partitions. You'd sit there, shoulder to shoulder, with 7 of your best tent mates, discussing the Germanic frontier while doing your business. And the toilet paper? A sea sponge on a stick, called a xylospongium. The kicker? It was communal. You used it, rinsed it in a bucket of vinegar water, and passed it to the next guy. If you've ever wondered why the Romans had so many plagues, look no further than the sponge of destiny. The retirement, the golden handshake, if you're lucky. If you survived 25 years of vine sticks, vinegar, and communal sponges, you hit the jackpot, onestimissio. This was your honorable discharge. You were usually given a lump sum of cash, about 12,000 sesterces, or more commonly, a plot of land in a newly conquered province. Essentially, Rome's retirement plan was to turn its deadliest killers into farmers on the edge of the empire. It was a brilliant move. If the locals rebelled, they weren't fighting regular farmers. They were fighting retired Terminators who knew how to build a fortress in their sleep. You finally got your peace, your land, and hopefully, a sponge that you didn't have to share with anyone. The legacy of the legions. Being a Roman soldier was a brutal, sweaty, terrifying, and oddly organized existence. It wasn't about individual glory. It was about being a part of a machine that paved roads, built empires, and changed the world, one stab and twist at a time. They were the original blue-collar backbone of Western civilization, just with more armor and significantly less soap.